crafty friends and all my fellow creators. It's Sue and I'm back with another video. And tonight we're going to get a little spooky. I went to the craft store the other day. I went to Joann's specifically, and I found some really cool candy molds. And these candy molds have little potion bottles in them. And hopefully you can see some of them have little skull faces. These little candy molds have little skulls in them, little signs that say beware, and little bats. And they're different shaped molds, and I just thought that was really cute. And I love the fact that there's so many of them. And then these have witches, cauldrons, and cats. And these do have little raised areas inside of them, but I don't really know how well that's going to pick up and transfer over to the resin. The little cats have eyes that kind of poke out a little bit, and there are some patterns on the witch and the cauldron, so we'll see how those turn out. I'm not 100% sure yet what those are going to look like. However, since I've never used candy molds to do resin before, I thought I'd give these a shot and see how they work. I have tried other silicone molds that are meant for baking. The ones I have worked really well. The only problem with them was that they were matte on the inside, so if you wanted a frosted look, you'd have to obviously coat over the outside of it to give it that shiny look and that translucent look. These, however, if you can see, are very, very shiny on the inside, so I have high hopes for them, so we'll see how they go. I haven't tried them yet. I just broke them out just now. I only bought them a few days ago, so I thought we'd give it a try together and see what they look like. So to begin, I have a couple of little silicone mixing pots. I have one set of mica powder that's this pearl color, and it's Rolio Pearl White, and this one is Rolio Silver. Even though it says it's silver, it's much darker than that. It looks almost black, and I thought it would be really cool to do the bats in. So we're going to do one right now on here of the round mold with the bat on it, and we're going to do one with the skull and crossbones on it. When we finish, and I want to fill up the entire mold, we're going to use this kind of neon green. I think it'll look really cool for the backdrop of the potions. So that'll be at the end. So we have our mixing cups. The only thing that I'm missing is something to do the coloring on the inside with. I'm trying to find a brush, which I was able to find. So I have a fine little brush here that we're going to use to paint inside the molds. So let's get to it. Using the same UV resin that I always use, and yes, I'm using UV resin to start with. The reason I'm doing that is because I want these images to show up on the outside of the mold when I fill it, but I need it to adhere here quickly. And there's a couple of things I could do, and maybe I'll do an experiment right now with that. I can paint these inside with the UV resin that's colored with the pigment, the mica powder, and I can also do just a mica powder directly onto the mold and just pour the resin in on top of that. So I'm probably going to try both of those because I literally just thought of that as I was sitting down here. So let's get into it. Putting a little bit of my Decorum UV resin in each one of these little pots. And I'm sorry if I'm sniffling again. I don't know why. As soon as I get on camera, I all of a sudden have the sneezes and or the sniffles. It's not a normal thing for me. Maybe I'm just allergic to the light. But here we go. We're going to put some of this pearl white mica powder in here. The covers on these bottles are sometimes hard to get. I'm going to put the silver in. Normally I'd be doing this with a mask on, so I don't have all these particles flying around, but then you wouldn't be able to hear me. So we're going to do a little of this. I'm going to put the cover back on this one. I'll do the UV resin ones first. I'm just looking for my UV torch. or my UV flashlight, which should be right over here. Yep, there it is. Okay, so I've got my little torch here, and this is a special torch. It's got a UV light on the inside of it, so you can use that to cure your resin instead of putting it in the light. There's nothing wrong with putting it in my light. It's just that I know that it's going to be sitting in that spot for only a very short amount of time before it starts running, so I don't want to take a chance on it spilling down into the rest of the mold, which is why I'm using the torch. All right. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I do have a bottle of alcohol standing by, spray alcohol, so I can clean off my brush when I'm done using one of the colors. I think we will start with the white. So hopefully you can see, yeah. I'm going to try to keep my hand out of the shot as much as possible. I'm going to paint it up in here, so I'm just putting this in here like this. This is going to be really hard for you to see because it's hard for me to see as well. Hopefully I can get this down in here without it going everywhere. Okay, I know I didn't finish the whole thing. I just want to fix that real fast. Okay. Now I'm going to paint the rest of this really quickly. So I'm going to get in here and do the crossbones. And I'm probably going to go over this a second time just to be sure that it's colored in well enough. Okay, I hope I wasn't too much in the way there with my hands. Do the light again. My torch is getting a little weak. I need to put new batteries in it. But it'll do for what I have to do here. Okay. So I've did a really quick cure on that. I was hoping that would help, but it doesn't really because the way the light is. I'm filming once again for anybody that follows me at night. And I apologize, I didn't say that earlier. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed and who follows me and who gives me a like and a comment. It really means so much to me. My channel is slowly growing and it's all because of you guys, so I do appreciate that so much. And I hope my content will just continue to get better and better. So if you're new and haven't watched before, thank you for joining and giving me the opportunity to share my little experiments here with you. And if you're returning, as always, thank you as well. Okay, so I filled that in a couple of times. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, you should be able to. So it's looking pretty good. I'm going to put the white off to the side and I'm going to clean my brush really quickly. This is just isopropyl alcohol. I think it's 97%. I got it at Walmart. I just fill up a little spray bottle here, keep it handy so that when I need to clean my brush or my hands, I have it right there available to me. It helps to get the UV resin out of the brush so it doesn't set the brush and make it stiff when it comes in contact with the resin or with the UV light. All right, now we're going to do the bat over here. I'm going to do the same process here. This will be a little bit easier because it is black. So it'll hopefully come out a little, it's not black, it's silver according to the bottle. But hopefully it'll come out a little bit easier just because it is so dark. I'm just turning my mold here so I can get into the tips of the wings a little bit easier. Hopefully I'm still on camera, sort of. Sorry about that. Okay. I know my hand's probably going to be in the way, but I'm literally just painting the mica powder and the UV resin in here with my brush, trying to get into the details of the wings without mucking them up too much. Okay. All right. I think I did that. Get this out of the way because I don't want that in the way. Using my UV flashlight again to cure it. Sometimes you'll hear this referred to as a flash cure. I'm not curing it all the way. I'm setting it enough for it to stay put. Now I'm just going in and touching this up. Since I will be coming over the top of these with epoxy resin once I'm done, I want them to be cured as much as possible. I can always pop it out and put the torch on the other side if it's still sticky once I get done. I'm just not sure how this is all going to play out because, again, we like to experiment and figure out how things are going to go. All right. So my little bat here is done. Okay. I'm going to put these guys off to the side for a minute. Well, no, I'm not. I take that back. I'm not going to put those off to the side because I wanted to try the, since I still have a little bit of alcohol over here, I'm just going to clean my brush again. Since I want to try the dry mica, I almost forgot I wanted to do that. So, clean our brush off as well as we can. Try to scoop as much of this out of here as I can. I always have a paper towel or something handy when I'm doing this kind of stuff because you always need to clean up. All right. Now I've got that silver mica powder again. And I'm going to take a little bit on my brush and see if I can even get it on here. I'm not 100% convinced that this is going to work. It will, but it won't be as vibrant as the other ones, is what I am initially thinking. And quite honestly, I'm not finding it any easier or more difficult to do it this way. The only thing I do notice is that as I'm transferring the powder into the little well where the bat is, because it's silicone, it has some natural static electricity, and the mica powder is wanting to pull off the brush and go all over the inside of my mold. And I could go in there and wipe it out. I'm going to leave it, see what it looks like when I get done. So I have put my powder in there. You can see hopefully on my screen here that this one is a lot darker than the other one. And it all depends on what kind of a look you're going for. This is much more silver up here than the one down below in the other mold. So I guess it just depends on what you're looking for. And by the way, these are little pretend like candy sprinkles. If you're seeing all these little black dots, it's not dirty. They're just cute little pretend candy sprinkles for whatever reason. So I'll put the cover back on this one. Go to my white. Just tap off that excess of the black. Come over here and try to do the same thing on the skull over here. This is going to be a little bit more difficult because the white was really hard to see being set in the resin already. It's going to be even harder to see on the mold here like this, but we'll give it our best shot. So I'm just painting in the skull and crossbones. I just expect that the detail isn't going to be as pronounced with just the mica powder as it will be with the mica powder and the UV resin. That's my suspicion, because I can't quite tell, especially with this white, where I've managed to get the powder and where I haven't. And I suspect it's going to go in places, especially on the skull, that I don't want it to go in. But again, we'll see how it turns out. Maybe I will be proven wrong. Okay. Pause here, Sue. I'm back. Pick up the video. Okay, now that we've got these done, and I've got my UV lamp over here, get some of my tools and stuff out of the way. I'm gonna pop these in the lamp. This won't do anything for the ones that I painted in with mica. It's only gonna help me with the ones that were done with the UV resin. So we're just gonna let it sit in there and do its thing for about 60 seconds or so. In the meantime, I've got a regular resin cup here that we're going to mix up some clear resin that we're going to tint and pour into our molds. Now, you may be thinking we haven't done anything with these guys yet, and that's for a good reason, because I don't know how these are going to turn out. Because the detail is so fine, I think what I want to do first is pour one just clear to see how the detail comes out. See if I do get any detail, because I can always draw it in with like a paint pen or something afterwards. And the cauldron and the cat, I may just do black or black and orange, or something to that effect. So we're going to do an experiment. We're going to do one with clear, one with some chunky glitter just to make it look pretty, and then one with the probably the silver that I used before. And then we'll pour the ones that we have over here with the green in them. So to mix up my resin, I'm going to do about, I have a couple other things that I want to pour on the side, so I think I'm going to mix up about 60 milliliters. So I'm going to do that off camera, and I will be back with you guys in just a second. Okay, so I'm back, and I have my tools all at the ready. I've already mixed my resin, and I've got my molds all situated here. So now what I'm going to do is I've been letting my resin degas. So I'm letting the air bubbles come out of it. I'm trying to see where I can put this. Let me just wipe it off instead. Just had a little resin hanging up the side there. All right, so I have everything ready to go. So the first thing I want to do is do the witch with the regular epoxy resin. So I'm just going to take this and pour this clear resin right into my witch mold. I'm not going to fill it all the way up, I don't think, because it's really just a test to see how those details come out. And these are pretty thick molds. They're meant for candy, of course, so you don't have to fill them all the way to the top. There's nothing saying you do. The only thing that you might have to do after you get done is, because of the natural way that resin cures, there may be a little bit of a dip in the center of your piece once you demold it, and you might want to just top that off with a dome of resin when you're all done, so that you don't have that lip around the outside of it. And once these cure, I'll show you what I mean about that a little bit better. All right, so my witch is done. I'm gonna let that sit there and do its thing. Over here, I want to put in some of the black mica powder that we had from earlier. I keep calling it black because it looks like black to me. It's really that silver. So I'm putting that in. And then in addition to this, this is going to be our cap. So, oops, if I could look. Boy, these caps are finicky. I hate plastic caps. Anyway, in addition to that, I've got some of these really cool kind of holographic silver sprinkles. They're like an octagon shape, so I'm going to put some of those in there as well. And we're just going to mix this all up really well. Make sure all that mica's incorporated in there. And even though you can't really see the glitter pieces, they're either going to go to the top or the bottom of the mold. We'll figure out which. And I'm just going to, hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I know there's a lot of shadow. Hold on, let me change this around a little bit. Again, I'm filming at night like I told you before, so not the best light. Hopefully one of these days I can get a better quality light. I did have one at one point, but I still have it. Makes it sound like I don't have it anymore. I still have it. I'm just not super keen on how well it does the job, so in the market for a new one. If anybody knows of one that you'd like to recommend, I'm all ears. Because this is the best time for me to record is at night. And it tends to get dark pretty early these days. So, all right. I put quite a bit of resin in there, so I'm going to do another one down here. I could have filled in their little eyes, but I want to see what they look like first before I do that. So we'll just do it like this. And I want to make sure that the resin gets all the way down into the legs there. I don't want air bubbles in there, which is why I'm going through with my stick and kind of making sure that everything is settled. Put a little bit more over here. And a little bit more in this one. Okay, I'll put that off to the side. And I'll get my next little cup of resin. And I'm going to add some of this really cool chameleon powder. Hopefully that's coming out on the screen there. This is Let's Resin's Chameleon Flakes. This one I believe is blue to purple, something like that. I can't read the rest of it, but it does color shift as you just saw. This one's kind of a pain in the neck because it does have a tendency to go absolutely everywhere when you open it, so I'm going to try to be careful that it doesn't go absolutely everywhere, as much as I'm able to anyway. So I'll get that in screen for you. So you can see that's what it looks like. Put that right in there. So as you can see, it's very static clingy. Wants to go where the plastic is, or anything else silicone. So I'm going to mix that up fast so I can get it incorporated and it stops flying around everywhere. All right, and this is going to go in our cauldrons over here. Okay, so that's done. So I've got my two black cats, the witch, and the cauldron all filled in. So we're going to put these in our curing machine when I'm ready to put them over and get them curing. For now, I'm just going to set them aside. And now we're going to finish up our little bottles over here. And I think just for ease and for time, I'm just going to do these all the same color. So I'm going to do them all in that green. And the really cool thing about this, whoops, oh my goodness, I am such a ditz sometimes. I already had resin in there. I'm trying to separate the cups. Holy moly, don't do what I do. So we're going to take this and mix it in. And what I was just about to say before I realized I was going to dump resin all over the table is because these little molds over here have these little tops, I can actually fill these in with something like white to make them look all foamy. I could wait until the resin is partly cured and mix it all in and give it a little swirl. There's all sorts of cool stuff you can do with this. But for right now, we just want to see how these are going to turn out. So I'll put this powder in here. Get this all mixed up. I know I'm going to need more resin, so let's put that in here now. So I still have plenty left over from what I mixed up. Okay, let's get all that powder incorporated. I just like to look at the screen because it gives me the vibe of like that potion-y poison green, which is why I think it's cool. So we'll use this and see how it turns out. Alrighty, put that off to the side. I'm going to pour in the first two, or not the first two, but the two that I did with just the powder without the resin, and I'm going to be careful to pour that in starting here at the bottom so it doesn't disturb that mica powder too much. And because of the way these molds are made, I'm going to have to fill these right up to the top in order to get the neck of it. Oh, dropped a little bit over there. I'm going to do the same thing here. Pour it directly right on that bat. Fill that right up to the top as much as I'm able to. Should have cut my stick in my hand. It would have made things a lot easier. Okay, now I do have to mix up some more powder and resin, so I'll do that off camera and we'll be right back. Okay, so I've filled up all the molds. This one looks a little different. I don't know if it's coming through on camera, but it's because I filled up clear resin on the back of it. The rest of them are just sitting here degassing and letting all the bubbles come to the surface. The same thing is happening over here with my other ones. So you can see them there. So they look all nice and cute. And now I have to figure out what I want to do with the tops of these. And I think because my white is already out, that I'm just going to use that. So I'm just cleaning off my gloves a little bit because I don't want to get any sticky resin that's all over my gloves on my bottle. So do that. And get another cup. This time I know it's empty because it's stacked up with the rest of them. And my white. Okay, so here's our white. I'm going to bring you out just a little bit to make it a little easier to see. Slide these over for the moment. Put this here. I'm going to pour a little bit of this white in here. I'm not going to need a whole lot. I'm going to need just a very, very small amount of resin for these because the necks of the bottles are very small, so I don't need an awful lot. These little molds actually took more resin than I was kind of anticipating, which is totally fine. Just now I know for future endeavors So I'm going to try to wipe as much of that green off as I can so I can reuse my stick. Mix this all up. And then just put a little bit on the tops of the bottles. It'll give it kind of a, you know, a look of glass, and also a look of maybe something is stewing away down below and causing a little bit of a backlash up at the top. And if it runs down into the rest of the mold, I don't care, because I think it'll just make it look even cooler. So I'm going to go through and do that on all of these. Fill them right up. Make sure they're all good. This first one needs a little bit more. Okay. So I think we are good to go. I think these are all set to finish degassing. I'm going to put them on my tray for my Resiner's resin curing machine. And if you haven't seen the video about that, I recommend that you go check it out. It's a great machine that helps you to cure resin in about 2 hours. It's epoxy resin, not UV resin. So if you want more details about that, I will try to remember to link it below. But if you don't see it, it's a Resiner's machine video that you can check out on my page. So with that said, I'm going to put these on my tray, let them degas, put them in the machine, and then when they're ready to come out, I will come back to you guys. Be a blink of an eye for you. It'll be a couple hours for me. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello, my creative friends. Welcome back. We are here to finally do the demolding. It's been a couple of days since I put these guys into the Resiner's resin curing machine. So now we're taking them out. We're going to take a look and see how they did. So let's start with our cats and our cauldron. So with these guys, we're looking for the detail, we're looking for the shininess. Okay, so he's pretty cute. And the eyes actually pop out at you, which is super awesome. And I do see the detail in there. So they turned out pretty cute. I like the holographic detail. I like the fact that he's a little bit more silver than black. It gives it a little bit more pizzazz, I guess. All right, here's the other cat. I expect it to be pretty much the same as the first. And you can see what I was talking about before, where if you don't fill it up all the way, hopefully you can see that. It's kind of hard to make it out in the video, but there's definitely a lip. So there's an indentation in there. And if you're just going to use these as little like dangles or something, it can be totally up to you as to whether or not you want to fill that up and make it completely level, or just leave them as it is. It's up to you, but I really like those cats. I think they turned out super cool. And last but not least, our cauldron. The cauldron turned out really neat. Get a little of the color shift, but not too much. And on here you can definitely see these little pokey pieces here. That's from where the resin went up the sides of the mold. So I would file those down or clip them down. And then you can either sand this, but if you're going to sand it, then you're going to end up having to put resin on it anyway. So I would prefer just to clip the points down just a little bit and just fill it up with some resin. But that's the cauldron. So there's those little guys. So the molds worked perfectly, came out really easy. I didn't have to put any spray in there to release them easier. Didn't have to do any of that. So let's take a look at our little bottles over here. These are the ones I'm really excited for. If my memory serves me, I should have written this down, but I think the first two here were just the mica powder on its own without the UV resin. So let's take a look. Okay, so it definitely was just the mica powder, although you can still see the mica powder on there for sure. It's definitely a different, looks different than the rest of the bottle. And I'll be darned if that doesn't look like a bottle. That really kind of turned out exactly the way I wanted it to. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. Fun, fun, fun. And here's the other one that we did in the black mica powder. This is the other bottle. So, or not black, silver. So that one turned out really cool as well. You could definitely see the bat on there. The bottle looks super cool as well. If I wanted to get a lot more technical, which I might do if I do these, or when I do these again, put a little change of color, or I could just do a paint marker on here to make this look like gold or black or whatever color you want it to look like. These are the ones that I use the UV resin. So you can see the skull and crossbones turned out a little bit more detailed on this one. You can see more of a shimmer to it, more of a sparkle. The rest of it looks pretty much identical. So this is the one without it. This is the one with it. And I'm not sure. I like them both. I kind of almost prefer the mica powder one. And this last one is the one that we painted on with the UV resin. And it doesn't look a whole lot different than the one that we did with it. Just maybe a little bit darker, which is totally okay. I mean, these are just going to be used for, you know, decorations and whatnot. And the one thing that I do kind of like about this is that the mica powder left a little bit of air bubbles in there. Not tremendously so, but just enough to make it look like it's actually, you know, some kind of poisonous liquid in there. And I am noticing, excuse me, that with the UV resin, not so much on the skull and crossbones, but definitely on the bat, that there is a little bit of tackiness to it, and that's because, not because of the resin that I used, but because the molds are not clear. I couldn't flip it over to get the other side to cure this side of the resin. I didn't expect it as much with the white because the white is more translucent. This was much more opaque, so the light didn't penetrate all the way through it when it was sitting in the mold. So I expected that there would be a little bit of stickiness to it. So I can pop that in my UV light and just finish the curing process on that. Now, I did tell you that we could do some detailing with some paint markers. And I have some metallic markers here, just to give you an idea. I think this one is, oh, I don't know. I think it's copper. Yeah, that one's copper. So what I could do is take it and brush it onto where I want it to be on my bottle, just like this. I'll do this one to show you. And I'll just let that dry. And we can also do it on this one. Need to get more of the paint flowing. So if I wanted it to have a little bit more of a detailed look, I could do that. I don't have a whole bunch of paint pens here. The only ones that I have are these metallic markers. So that's all I would do. But you see how that gives it a little bit of a kind of a cork look to it. So I think that looks kind of cool. All right. So that's the unmolding of our cute little, yeah, the tackiness is almost gone. I just need to put it through maybe one more time to completely fix it on there. But you see what our little things look like. So the cats turned out super cool. I don't know if you could see it necessarily in here, but there is a line here from the mold to show like the inside of the pot. And there's a few little details down here on the feet. So if you wanted to do something in there, you could use like a silver pen and just put like a little line in there to delineate that. Whatever you want to. Most people are going to know that it's a cauldron though, especially if there's a witch next to it or a potion or something. So I just thought these were really cute. They make great keychain additives. So if somebody wanted to put a little bit of spookiness on their keychain, they could make them, you could make them into a necklace. Could do all sorts of things, even earrings if you wanted to. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is just a little show and tell of what you can do with molds other than just your basic resin molds. They don't have to be something super great that you can get at the craft stores or on Amazon or something. You can use candy molds to create the same kind of effect. And these are great because you're usually making more than one. And if you, in candies, I mean. So if you are doing these multiples of these that you want to do for, like I said, some sort of decorations, you want to hang them like on a mobile, or if you wanted to put them hanging from a scary moon or something, or like I said, pendants or necklaces, then you can make multiples at the same time and you can test out different types of things that you want to do with it to see how it turns out. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed. Again, if you have any ideas or thoughts or suggestions for other things that I can do or something you'd like to see me make, please leave me a comment down below. Like this video if you enjoyed the content and you'd like to see more. Leave me a comment if there's something that you'd like to share. And subscribe if you're so inclined because it does help me. I really appreciate you sticking it out with me and watching till the end here to see what these turned out like. They were a lot of fun to do. I enjoyed being here with you again today, as always. Thank you to those who stopped by to watch. Take care, have a safe day or night wherever you are, and we will talk again soon. Bye.